Hey, this is Eugene Driscoll and Tony Spinelli. I like to call him the professor. And
That's what they called me in high school.
seriously?
Yeah, I was very good in English. I had a high aptitude for English, and I picked up a lot of vocabulary words. And by the time I was, I think, either a freshman or a sophomore in high school, my nickname was the professor. Because I was always using, good vocabulary words and everything.
And I didn't know that. See that? So this is Navel Gazing, our weekly. We call it a podcast, even though it's not a podcast. It's neither in a pod. And it's not in a cast, as far as I can tell. We do it on GarageBand, and it says podcast, so I guess we can get away with it. And let's talk about, bam, this crazy story out of Oxford, where four large Newfoundland dogs
Yeah,
apparently attacked a smaller dog on Monday.
they can be scary because they're big. They are
Yeah,
big dogs.
but they're known as. I mean, I remember seeing some of them as a kid, and they're like, it's like Gentle Ben. They're known for being nice dogs,
True,
gentle.
But I guess when dogs are in a pack, as they were, they take on a different mentality,
Yeah, whatever
and
happened.
they can be more aggressive than if they were individual.
And there was some concern. I mean, the concern was there was four dogs in this fight that left a smaller dog dead, and the concern from Deborah Gatto, the head of Parks and Rec in Oxford, was that only two of the four dogs were accounted for whatever reason. That it's unclear as to why police were able to get two dogs, and then they at least took at least a day to get these other two dogs.
Right. Just found out about that a few minutes ago, actually. Sergeant Dan Simotsky, the resident state trooper in Oxford, informs me that they did get the other two dogs yesterday, and all four dogs are now accounted for. They are at an undisclosed location under the control of the local animal control officer. And because of that, Debbie Gatto, the parks director, decided it was safe to reopen the park because there are no more Newfoundlands at that house nearby, and she reopened the park, and people are at the beach today.
And did the sergeant say where they found the other two
Yes,
dogs?
they were found at that location, at that house.
Okay.
They were not there the day before, but they were there on the return visit, and they were picked up, and they are now under the control of the animal control officer.
Okay. The strange story out there in Oxford. So it's been we're missing our third staffer today, Jodie Mosger.
Yeah, and she's got a diamond on her finger now.
Exactly. Yeah.
She's a diamond girl.
She robbed an old lady and stole her ring. No, Jodie got engaged, and it's every young woman's dream. Number one, to get engaged, to have that magic happen, and number two, to have it discussed on Navel Gazing, the Valley Independent podcast.
That's right. I mean, that's the Cinderella dream, the American dream.
So
to
if
be
anyone,
on the Valley Indy podcast.
if you have birth announcements, engagements, go ahead, email it, and we'll read it on the air. So anyway, I'm going to a Derby Board of Aldermen meeting tonight. Not a heck of a lot on the agenda. Although I was looking through every month the police department has to give in all the departments have to give in a list of what's going on within their department, and the police department, they have some crime statistics on there, and I'm wondering if this is going to be discussed tonight. This is just a hunch. There was an incident last weekend at RJ's on Elizabeth Street there, where there was apparently a pretty big fight, or at least a big crowd, and some type of fight, and some knucklehead fired his gun into the air like it's the Wild West, for whatever reason, to break up the fight. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if there's been an arrest, but according to this police report that the chief gave in to the Board of Aldermen, they've had a few complaints at that particular location. For whatever reason, that's become a little bit of a hot spot, according to the police, and they've got some complaints of some kind. I don't know the nature, up at the State Liquor Control Commission there. So that's one thing going on. And I'm thinking
Yeah.
maybe it'll be discussed tonight because after that happened, Dan Foley, who's a Democratic challenger for mayor in Derby, put some things on his website, and it was on our Facebook page as well. His campaign people did, talking about how quality of life, and they were kind of using this as an issue, as a campaign issue, quality of life / crime. So we'll see. This will be the first time there's been a meeting of the Board of Aldermen since they made their nomination. So I'm thinking maybe the mayor will talk about crime in Derby, and I don't know. Maybe it's a defensive thing. Maybe they'll have the police chief talk about crime statistics, and he had some stuff in his report saying that actually crime's gone down.
What is the most prevalent type of crime in Derby?
Well, geez, you put me on the spot here. I didn't study it. I'll say just motor vehicle violations, obviously, are low level.
You don't have a lot of car thefts though here, right?
Not that I know of.
That's good. That's good because I used to live in Bridgeport and in Stratford, and my car was stolen and broken into more times than I can even remember. And my insurance rates were always climbing, and it was awful. And so I'm glad that we don't have a lot of that here in the Valley. We don't have that in Derby, it seems. There's not a lot of car theft, not a lot of car vandalism.
Yeah, one thing that I find interesting about Derby, I live in Derby. I live on Hawthorne Avenue, and I'm always sort of worried. We're right on the street, it's a sidewalk, and people always go by, and I'm always a little in the back of my mind worried about, what I have in my car. I think part of that might be just because I'm a reporter. One thing about Derby is they did have a rash of break-ins in cars, parked cars, probably a year ago or so, and they're good about putting alerts out about that. It was happening at the train station, and I think we reported like every car that was broken into last year. And then at the end of 2010, when I chatted with the new chief about crime stats, the actual number was very low. Remember we did that story? It was like you would think from all the times we wrote at that, but it was really crime in Derby. I think is relatively stable. Although you do get, there's definitely problem areas. I live in Hawthorne, and you go down up on Hawkins and 7th, and there's stuff going on up there without a doubt. So we're kind of playing by ear right now. What else is going on, Tony? You had a busy week.
Yeah, well, the Seymour Police have their award ceremony now for the first time. They had it last night, and a lot of other Valley towns have award ceremonies, and where they honor their officers for the courageous deeds they've done. But Seymour just got around to it. They had it last night, and it must be at least.
Were there a lot of people there? That's.
There were in excess of 100 people in the audience at Seymour Middle School, and I would say that at least 100 awards were given out.
Wow, really?
Probably about 100 awards given out, yeah.
Well, I don't think we listed them all, huh?
Well, some of them were, some guys won 3 times.
I get you.
Multiple winners.
Okay.
So
they must have something putting that together.
Yeah.
One thing about police, and it was good. I'm glad that happened in Seymour. Somebody on the website, a commenter posted that, hey, I'm glad to read about this than alleged illegal meetings of the Seymour Police Commission. And for the record, we rather write about things like that, my father's a police officer, my brother's a police officer, and, I think we have just walking in, we respect what police officers do. What other job, do you leave and there's a chance that, you're not going to come back at the end of the day. So that's why we were happy, we go to the Ansonia one. We try to cover those just as a way of saying thank you. And it looks like we're just approaching our 10-minute mark, and that's like, in terms of a BS meter, that's our max. So congratulations to Jodie, and we'll see everybody next week.
All right.